Okay, right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Caroline Stevens. I'm the presenter of a YouTube channel called Stepping Stones to Awareness. You've heard earlier on, I've interviewed Mark, I've interviewed Liz, and I've interviewed John Kitson on my Right Unity show as well, which is also on the internet. So, the state of politics today. I'm a committed Brexiteer, and who is actually in charge of our government? Who is actually running this country?
The bankers.
I want one name. Pardon?
Rothschild.
No, that's not the name I was looking for. Ollie Robbins. Right, introduce you to Ollie Robbins. Here he is. This is Ollie Robbins. Okay? He's got an EU badge. He's a committed Europhile. He works directly with Theresa May. And he is in charge. Can you imagine all our lives, pretty much, this guy has almost total control of? The Tory party. By all accounts, the leader of the Tory party is chosen by a lady called Serena Rothschild. So there we have, got the name in there somewhere. What is the political system actually all about? I mean, I've stood for Parliament. We have a situation in the world where 1% govern the 99%. Would you agree?
Yeah.
1%. Most of the world's wealth is in those people's hands. Okay? Whether you like to call them Illuminati, the Bilderbergers, the 300 Club, whoever. So, just imagine I'm one of those 1%ers. I'm probably going to be very good friends with this guy, aren't I? Because he controls this country, pretty much. Him and a sort of a cohort of individuals in the civil service. Remember, 90% of the civil servants actually voted to stay in the EU. 80% of our MPs voted to stay in the EU. It's about 80%. So, and even then, when you look at the 20% who say they voted for Brexit, they actually want to cherry pick Brexit. They won't, not one of them is really prepared to talk about military unification. So let's just picture it then. I'm one of the 1%, and I'm facing the 99%. And what do I want from you? What do you think I actually want from you?
Control.
What was that, sorry, Liz?
Surrender. Control.
Control. I want to control you. You're a bit of an inconvenience, really. You might chauffeur drive my car. You might do the plumbing in my house, one of my many mansions. You might teach my children how to swim. But do I need 99 of you? Do I? No, I don't. So, how am I going to sort you out, if you like? I'm going to give you, put you into groups, because you always divide and conquer, don't you? Otherwise, if you really knew what I'm thinking about you, you'd want to come and knock on my door and take me away to prison. So I'm going to divide you. So, I was looking at the papers, because we're divided by our media, yet they're run by the same people. Isn't that bizarre? So we think, oh, I've got friends who say, oh, how could you read The Guardian, Caroline? I said, well, there's some interesting points in The Guardian, but it's a left-wing paper. If you forget these labels, and this is what I'm asking you to do today, when you go away and just think, actually, we've been controlled, we're put in boxes. And I don't know if you, like me, but I come from Yorkshire, and no one sticks me in a box. Okay? So there's an article in the paper yesterday. The truth is out there. 60% in the UK believes in conspiracy theories. Now, Conspiracy theories, that's the truth, isn't it? It's the fake news we get on the BBC and Sky News. So, Lenin once said, and we've talked a lot about Russia, haven't we, a few weeks and months, about the poisonings and sort of poking the Russian bear. But Lenin once said, the best way to govern is to actually, with the controlled opposition, to actually lead that controlled opposition yourself. So basically, the controlled opposition is all around. We just don't realise it. So, for example, if you're reading The Guardian, is there anybody here that occasionally reads The Guardian?
No.
Nobody? Okay, somebody's going to volunteer. Mick is going to be my willing accomplice. What colour would you like? Would you like green? Would you like red? Or would you like yellow? Which colour?
Yellow, please.
Right, if you just hold it like that. Is there anybody that reads the Times or the Telegraph?
Occasionally.
Occasionally. I think you'd like a blue cover.
Oh, yeah,
You just hold it like that, please. Is there anybody that reads the Daily Express, especially when they were voting for Brexit? Any supporting Brexit? Anybody read the Daily Express? Thank you, James. Right, you called that one. Purple. You get the idea yet?
Yep.
Is there anybody really who's concerned about the environment? I think Janet's concerned about the environment.
No, that's the new red. Sorry, I ain't going there.
Somebody must be concerned about the environment and the plastic that's in the seas.
Well, I'll take
I
it.
am.
Yes, exactly. Yes, you see, getting it now. Green. And who's worried about employment rights and maternity rights? Liz. Right. Okay. So can you see? I have split you up already, and you will then, as leaders of your little parties, you will then bring similarly like-minded people to you. Okay? So what's inside those folders? Just the first cover? No, the other way. That's why I specifically offered, yeah, at the back. What is the word at the back? Over the cover.
People.
People. People. So basically, I've grouped you, but you are all people with pretty similar needs and wants. Would you not agree?
Yes.
What do we need? What do we want? What do we actually need, Keith?
People. Oh, sorry.
What do we need as people?
Unity.
Clean water, clean air,
Thank you.
Security.
Remember
Yeah,
school,
yeah.
that triangle.
sunlight.
Remember that we need shelter, but most of all, we actually need water. And do you know something? All we're concerned about on Facebook, that all I'm seeing at the moment is Batten, Farage, and what's happening, and why haven't we got freedom of speech? What do we actually need most of all is water, food, and shelter. And by 2028, the world's most scarce commodity will be what,
Water.
John?
Water.
Water. Okay. So we're focusing in the wrong direction. We've been focusing on Brexit. Sure, that should bind us together. It should bind 17.4 million people together. Because this guy doesn't care about us. He doesn't care probably about the Remainers either. He wants a federal state with his cohort of other people. So, we've had Godfrey Bloom actually this morning talking about military unification. Ask yourself this: why is it that whether your MP was voted for Remain or for Leave, why did your MP not table something in Parliament to say we must talk about military unification? Why didn't they do that? I thought they were for Brexit. We have written, myself and a couple of others, we launched the Pesco Day campaign October last year. And we had a network, I've got a network of people, and we got all the MPs pretty much covered. They got a letter from us, or from one of my colleagues, And we wrote to them and said, is this true? What are you going to do about it? Well, it got them by surprise, actually, last October. And they actually started answering truthfully. And then, we then started getting a standard template letter from these MPs, which had obviously come from HQ. So once you're on their case, they have to basically cover their tracks. So fast forward 13 months. Remember, a year ago, there was Julian Thompson, Brigadier Julian Thompson, Colonel Richard Kemp, two very, very famous living military people, and I saw them on a platform, and they basically said they were scared, scared that our government was going to give away our military to Brussels. There were famous people in the audience. I approached those famous people afterwards. I said, will you support us? We need to bring awareness. Oh no, can't do that. Friends with the Tory party. Sorry, no, can't do that. Really? So, you see, with all these colours, what are these politicians doing?
Dividing us.
They're dividing us, and they're putting their party before the people. There's something for you to think about. I was once a member of a political party, and now I realise, after listening to all those talks today, the people need to unite, and the people will never unite behind a colour. I can guarantee. It has not worked. There's a saying, isn't there? If you do what you've always done, you get what you've always got. So, when I look at Brexit, I think, well, Brexit, I've said for 2 years now, especially with Theresa May being a Remainer, I would try to be a bit optimistic at first, but with her being a Remainer and seeing the shenanigans going on behind closed doors, I've been keeping a watch on Parliament throughout. For example, the Fishing Committee. I've not seen one politician, whether they're actually in Parliament or not, comment on the fact that the evidence that was taken for the Fishing Committee was actually collated mainly by, well, one of the people who gave evidence was a Remain politician's assistant. Just after the referendum, he'd got a job at the Ports Authority. And suddenly he's giving advice and evidence to the government. But hang on, he was an MP's assistant prior to giving the advice. So you see how people are being put in place to give the advice. I wrote to the MP, do you think he acknowledged the fact that they were taking advice from obvious Remainers, obviously with a vested interest? And no, they're all in it together. Let's be under no illusions that none of these politicians are our friends. It's just a pantomime. And, there's so much energy, and a lot of it's about taking people's energy and wearing them down. They're taking your energy and saying, oh, well, if we get Morgan, if we get Boris Johnson, come on. You are what you produce. The fruits of your labour is what it's about. Look at what happened with Boris Johnson just before the referendum. Yes, he stood for Brexit, but he was supportive of the EU accepting Turkey into its fold. And there's many, many other examples I can give you about these politicians. I mean, for example, the Canadian trade deal. I keep talking about it now. No one else is talking about it, apart from the people who want it. The Moggs of this world, the Campbell Bannermans of this world. They all want this say no to TTIP type deal. The Canadian trade deal is not very much different to TTIP. TTIP, before the general election, people were in the streets in their millions in Europe. They didn't want TTIP. Why didn't they want TTIP? Anybody remember why they didn't want TTIP?
Political connections. It gave away political powers, doesn't it, to corporations?
Corporations!
Got more control over the government, which is another corporation.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then we lead on to the corruption. So we've got globalists. They lobby the governments. They lobby the EU. It's a government. It's a charter. So basically, we'll end up with our water being sold, our NHS being sold. We won't have anything left, and we'll have more unemployment. Trade is, trade deals are between person to person, aren't they? Why does the government have to get involved in these trade deals? Because it's never for our benefit, is it?
Rothschild's buying all the roads, so you can charge tolls when we go out.
It's all been done through corporations. If you go back to Genesis 26 to 28, man and woman got domination over the world, not corporations. I throw that at them all the time.
Now, we talk about corruption, because this is what we need to focus on. Corruption and maladministration, whatever you want to call it. Look at the vested interests of the people that govern you, for starters. The financial interests. Nobody looks at that. We were looking, weren't we? Dave and Mick, we drove here today, and I saw that Theresa May was giving some sort of reward to John Hales, and they reckon it's just to get this bill through Parliament. So I looked at his financial interests. I mean, MPs get, what, £70,000 a year. So he's getting paid something like $20,000 from further education establishment for the next year for about 200 hours work. And so it goes on. They're getting paid thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds, each of them, for doing maybe 80 hours of work for £20,000. Where can you get that sort of money from?
Corruption.
So people say, right, okay, so we talk about the Panama Papers, the Paradise Papers, the Finchley Roads. Who does not know about Finchley Road? Lots of people. Apart from the people in this room, there are so many people that will not talk about Finchley Road. The shell companies, the companies that don't really exist. They don't necessarily have to have proper audited accounts. I've interviewed a guy called Gordon Bowden on many occasions now. He doesn't live too far from here. And he is methodical. He can work out which people in the public eye have got shell companies. So why do you think a lot of our politicians, in fact, I don't think any of our politicians are talking about it. Why do you think that might be then?
Because they're pissing in the same pot.
All of them. It doesn't matter what colour. And, we have revealed some names on stepping stones to awareness already. I can tell you lots more people as well. Entertainment industry, they're all in it together. Okay? And it's no good people saying on Facebook, oh, well, they pay their taxes. Who's to say that this money came legitimately in the first place? So the money is taken illegitimately and then handed a bit back to the government.
Most of it is from our taxes, actually.
And council tax,
Absolutely.
stealing 28 billion out of the economy. It's official.
So
How are they going to get talked about?
So we've got all these cases of corruption and the MPs go quiet. And then we've got the court cases, we've got the secret courts. We've got the secret courts which give the authority for the judges to actually physically remove permanently children from the care of their parents. We've got a court case on at the moment at the High Court. Is it the High Court, Janet?
Oh, yes. No, Crown Court.
Crown Court in
Yes,
Southwark.
Southwark, yeah.
And this is a chap called David Noakes, another person that I've interviewed on Stepping Stones to Awareness. David Noakes has seemingly, or this is what they reckon, flouted the 1939 Cancer Act. You see what happens with the judicial system, the parliamentary system, is they impose their will on us. And we're the 99%. Who's the wimp here? Are we wimps? We must be, mustn't we?
Caroline, none have the cheeky call to tell you.
Just to highlight to people that we are run by a global cabal.
Yeah, but they're doing that through they're doing that through corporations.
Yeah.
But also this
Until they go.
They don't want to believe it, though, people do, really.
No.
I don't think this, yeah.
The percentages in the paper is basically to get the sheep to secure. So they always, small percentage what's true. And,
Well, I mean, when I talk to people about, you know, if I'm in the supermarket, they'll believe so much, and then you realise you've overstepped the mark. You then mention chemtrails, and they, whoa, this woman, yeah, don't listen to her.
Right.
Yes, John.
I was going to say, you're amazing. Thank you so much for organising today's event. I just want to show you my gratitude, and God bless you. And also this kind gentleman here, John, just very kindly told me, he's written a book. John, you go. Alice and the Money Tree. It's an easy reading, 56 pages, exposing what's going on with the banking scam, the money scam, how we're all being swindled and kept in control by debt. And it's got the books for them. And if anyone's interested, it's a great read, and it's a great eye-opener for someone who's not open to a lot of this information. I've got it if you want to go around from the car.
The point of it is what Caroline is saying, it's trying to get under the radar. People read stories, if they're simple stories, then if you tell people what to think, probably nobody wants to, you can't get anywhere. Everyone's going, oh, conspiracy theories. So I put together some simple stories and a few poems. And it's working. It amazingly works. A lot of people, a merchant banker came to me last month. He bought a copy of it, and he came back and bought another 10. He said he's got a first-class degree in financial studies. He worked for, he was a derivatives trader. He was a real sort of player in the city of London for years. And he said, no, he worked for Morgan Stanley, he worked for and he said, look, one person, nobody ever explained to him how money works. Now these are the blokes working the system don't understand. And it's such an extraordinary fraud. They get away with it because it's so extraordinary. The human mind can't take it in.
Actually, what they do, the issue of debt.
Yeah, that's right. That's what they do. What we've got to do is dream up ways. Maynard Keynes, the great economist, said only one, has famously said only one in a million detect the theft. He's telling us it's a theft. He's using the words detect and theft. Only one in a million will pick this up. But he's also telling us a secret. Our task is to get more than 1 in a million to understand. You people do here. So this is my little attempt to trying to get this to happen. And I try and dream up ways of, for instance, if you get, everyone says that money and oil, they have the similarity, they are a medium, and they allow all the moving parts in. The engine won't work, the seats on it needs the oil to make it work. Money in the economy does the same thing. So they have this similarity, they're a medium universe, everybody says this. So I think this is one way I'd like to try and explain it to people. So they have this similarity. Similarly, they have a value. You've got to get the oil out of the ground, you've got to transport it, you've got to refine it, you've got to put it in the can, you've got to pay for it. Similarly, money has a cost. Not very much to print a bit of paper, and most of it are just keynotes on a computer screen. But someone's, the typist is looking at this, it has a value. So it's a medium, it has a value, you've got to get hold of it, so you've got to pay for it. And then you've got to get it into the system. Well, you pour the oil into the car, the Chancellor, if you've got to pour the money into the economy. The way they do it, they pay their tokens, because money is just a token to represent that. They pay the money into the NHS and the army, and that's how the money is poured into our system.
Yeah, but it could,
Now, wait a minute, let me say. The point I'm trying to make is, suppose you went to a garage and you said, I want a gallon of oil, and the garage man said, there's a gallon of oil, but next year, or the year after, you've got to give it back to me. And every month until you do, you've got to give me a pint of oil. But nobody would accept those sort of bets. It's preposterous. It's totally illogical. Yet we all accept this is how money is introduced. So that's one little parallel. Perhaps we can talk about it. The oil and the money in the curse. And stuff like that we've got to dream, right? I'm going to get my
It's less than a